So yo, what's up, man?
Yeah, what's up, bro?
Good, man. Good.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. My name is Tom. My name is Thompson, and this is my friend, William Mwasha. You had to introduce yourself, bro.
I had to introduce.
Yeah, you had to introduce
Alright, I'm William Mwasha.
Yeah. So it's William Mwasha, and we're gonna talk about depression in this video. So just subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you can, and a comment too on what you think about depression as a whole. So yeah. So William.
Yeah.
I mean, I picked you, bro, because I feel you are the best person to talk about depression. You know, so, I mean, to start with, just in your own view, what do you think depression is?
Well, I think depression is like loss in activity,
Yeah.
loss of interest in activity, rather,
Yeah.
impairment of the way you see life. It's like an impaired type of perspective that you begin to adopt about life,
Yeah.
and just a general lack of drive and focus and motivation towards just normal day-to-day things that you're supposed to do, like bathing, eating, socializing, and just thinking, having like a clear train of thought. Yeah, so I think that's what it is.
Well, that's very good. I mean, never say from the aspect of not having to bath and
Yeah.
and the aspect you brought up of also thinking, you know, because I mean, I just usually took it as loss, as you said, you know, and then probably mood swings as well,
Yeah.
and whatnot. So, yeah. So from the low highs to the manic highs too. So, what do you think of the types of depression that we don't talk about usually? And I mean, I would like you to talk about how you feel society tackles depression as a whole, and how a person that's depressed is usually confined to this area where they feel they don't have to come out because society will probably, you know, taunt them about it.
Well, I think I feel there are two types of depression that I think we can
Talk about.
talk about
Yeah,
right
sure.
now. It's like
Yeah.
there's clinical depression,
Uh-huh.
which is an actual medical illness. It's not a feeling or it's not a feeling or a mood as opposed
Yeah.
to sadness. And I think that's one of the things we have to be clear about,
Uh-huh.
how this generation maybe sometimes perceives or sees depression as just sadness, but
Yeah.
there's a subtle difference. Well, there's not a subtle difference. There's actually a huge difference between being depressed and being sad. You know, being sad is a feeling, it's a mood. But being depressed, especially when it comes to clinical depression, is an actual illness that could be treated just like malaria or anything out there.
Yeah.
And I feel the one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is apart from clinical depression is situational depression.
Yeah.
So situational depression is a form or type of depression that happens after something, a tragic event. It could be loss of a partner, loss of a parent, maybe a loss of a job, or just someone failing to handle the chaos that comes with life
Yeah.
in a particular season or phase that they're transitioning into. And so that's situational depression. And I feel it's one of the things that a lot of people face when they go to uni.
Yeah.
You go to university, it's like there's this that's small of situational depression. You're failing to handle the chaos that you've been handed with, and then you don't know how to deal with the transition and the new space and environment that you're in. So yeah, I feel that's how I can like look at it.
Well,
So,
that's very good, man. I mean, that's really very good. Let me just to sum up on what you said. There's also a type of depression called atypical depression. So this depression is a depression that comes up seasonally, where it's like when there's a positive mood coming in,
yeah,
you become better.
it become better.
You know, but out of that you go back to the normal
go
phase
back,
of you
yeah.
being depressed. You know, and then there's also persistent depressive disorder,
Yeah.
where you are usually depressed, you know. But then that's not what I would usually like to bank on. What I want to talk about is how depression does come up in a couple of ways. So from what I heard from people and what I've read, I understand to say depression doesn't come from specifically one thing we could pin down.
No.
You know, like depression just comes from this. No.
No.
There's a couple of things
There's a
variety of things that do bring on depression. Yeah, so another part of that was brain chemistry. You see,
Yeah.
in the brain we have what we call neurotransmitters, eh?
Yeah.
And so these neurotransmitters send messages in between the nerves. So now what happens is if we have low neurotransmitters going to the nerves, you become depressed because your mood becomes low.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it could be ineffective. So that way still remain depressed. So now, like the question I asked you at first, how do you think society pins down depression? Like, how does society as a whole look at depression, and how you feel a person is depressed is confined into an area where they feel they can't stay power because society probably labels depression as something else?
Well, there's a stigma around depression, especially in the black community. There's a stigma. People don't believe depression is an actual thing. They just think maybe you're looking for attention, or it could be witchcraft. It's a lot of people allude to that. Oh, it could be witchcraft. It could be you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And that's the perception. That's the view that people have of depression. And some people just say you're too young to be depressed.
True. Right?
What are you being depressed about? You don't have a family. You don't have children. You know, so what are you being depressed about? They think depression has to do with just struggles of life, which is part of it, but it's not entirely. Like you're saying, it could be brain chemistry, so there could just be a problem with the way your brain is functioning and the chemicals. So I feel there's a stigma, and it makes it very hard for people to come out and have conversations about depression because they already know what society will say and how people will respond. It's either you're seeking for attention, you're not just strong enough, you're weak. You could be more grateful. They say, oh, just be more grateful, or you just become more realistic. Something like that, something in those lines. And I feel it makes it very hard for someone to come out and just say, hey, look, I'm depressed, and get the help that they need. It's very hard to get help when you're depressed, and that's why one of the key elements that comes with depression is thinking and feeling you are alone. So already as depression, as it comes, it makes you feel like you're alone. So imagine you already feel like you're alone, and society
literally
makes it like an actual thing. They bring it into being. So it's very hard to go about. You feel you're alone, and then society really doesn't give you support, and then you feel more estranged, and you feel like, oh, I'm alone in this. And that's why a lot of people tend to become suicidal, because you think maybe the only way I'll stop this is by ending my life. And
so what do you think are some of the, I mean, I like how you've talked about society and how it levels depression, because you see, I've seen people naturally come out of this, though they're depressed, and sometimes could be that they don't know they're depressed. You see, because that's what ignorance can do sometimes, So usually this happens, I think, with kids, when they lose like a parent, supposedly, all right? So some kids remain traumatized because they lost a dad.
PTSD, like post-traumatic stress disorder.
But then they can't come out of that because obviously society is probably going to say, no, that's how it's supposed to be. It's like we've normalized depression to a point where we think nobody can be depressed. It's a normal thing. Not that it's not a normal thing. It's a normal thing, but then we don't look at it. Like we don't pay as much attention as we are supposed to pay to it in a natural way. So what do you think are the ways that somebody could probably use to, I mean, come out about it and as well seek help, as in, how they could probably find therapy?
Well, like obviously go to like institutions. I feel if you're within Ndola, the Ndola Central Hospital could be a good place to start. And other places in the country. But I feel you could, the first step, if you feel family and friends are not supportive, it is to go for medical practitioners and people who've been trained for years to deal with such things, and people who are understanding and won't be judgmental because they know the elements that they know the things that play a part for you to get depression. But I think you can also start with family. You can open up to family and friends. You can select. I don't think everybody is just away from the idea of depression, and you get backlash for that. So you can start in like portions, in bits and pieces, opening up just
to people.
So instead of going the first day and say, I feel like dying, maybe you go the first day and say, I don't feel too motivated. So you have like a staircase, and you're building towards something, so that by the time you come and tell them maybe how pathetic or how horrible you've been feeling, it's been over a progressive time, and maybe that way they'll digest it, because sometimes it's too hard
for them to just
for
get
them
it,
to
take it
just
right there
get
and then.
it, and because
That's
of
a
the way
valid
people
point.
were raised up and
Yeah.
the way society works, it's too hard for people to just take it at a go and digest everything. So if you
Yeah.
can tell them in bits and pieces, maybe that could help.
Well, that's a very good thing, man. That's a very good thing. So what would you do in a case where, or probably if you see people that have, opened up about this, then they received a negative response towards, because it's something that has to be expected in a society
Yeah.
like this, where you go up to people and tell them, so I feel this way, and then they say, well, you're not supposed to feel that way. Probably it's demons. You are possessed, maybe, or you're probably just ungrateful. You're not manning up to life, because life is hitting you hard, and all you want to do is, find the easy way out of things. So, what would you say to a person that's in a case like that, supposedly? Yeah, in a case like that.
I feel I would advise them to find other depressed people, because in a society like this, if you open up and people don't receive you
Yeah.
and receive your issues, I feel the best way is to go to people who are experiencing the same,
Yeah.
because they won't look at it from
The negative point of view.
negative point of view.
Right.
They will relate with you, and then maybe you can start from there. You can just say, oh, I'm depressed as well. It's like, oh, you're depressed too. Okay, so how do you think we can help one another? So I feel just going to people with that's how come support groups are very important, and that's the whole point of support groups. It's people with the same issues, with the same struggles, with the same story, with different backgrounds and all that, coming together and just
help one
saying,
another.
this is our common enemy. How do we defeat it, and how do we move past this? So I feel finding people with similar struggles, see people who are depressed, people who are anxious, something in those lines, and just getting to relate. So
well, that's actually very good. So yeah, I think that's a good way to go about stuff. Obviously, if people relate, they won't pin you down to something. So yeah, man, I respect that. So yeah, let's sum this up, man. What would you have to say as in your last summing up words to the depressed society that we have, because we are a society of depressed people, man, that we just don't come out about these things.
I think what I can say is it gets better.
Yeah.
Having experienced depression myself a couple of times, one of the things that depression comes to target, and one thing that it brings is loss of hope. You lose your hope in literally everything, and you think your situation won't get better, and it's here to stay. Oh, I'm gonna be like this forever.
Yeah.
It does get better, and it won't get better. Maybe it won't be like a line. It will be like a roller coaster ride. So today you're okay, tomorrow you're not okay. But as long as you're seeing a new day, it gets better. And so today you try, and tomorrow you try a little, then the next day you try a little again, and then you keep going. It does get better. Find friends you can confide in, and find people you can talk to about this. It could be family members, it could be maybe a therapist, it could be a stranger, but find someone you can talk to. Talking always helps. Someone you can vent to and just open up. But it gets better. That's one thing I can say.
It gets better, eh?
Yeah.
Well,
gets better.
that's good, man. That's very good. And I think what I have to say from there is having to understand to say change is inevitable. Because I feel the hardest part of a human being is to actually change.
Yeah.
We don't think change is a part of life, so we need to understand that life gets challenging, and that change is part of the challenging things that do come with us. But then you still have to take it up. If problems come, you still have to face them head on. And that's what's important. So, life is gonna get hard at some point, but then tell yourself every day that you could make it, that you could fight it, and it gets better. So yeah.
Yeah, it does get better.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That was William. Thank you, bro.
You're welcome, bro.
Thanks for coming over, man. Yeah. So please subscribe to the channel and leave a like and
subscribe to it.
yeah. You could also drop a comment.